It is truly an honor and privilege for me to be here with you today for a number of reasons. As you might have guessed or surmised from the reading of the resume, I am Pensacola born, Pensacola educated. I have been in the DC area for about 27 years, but that was a courtesy of CIA recruiting me off the University of West Florida College campus and bringing me up to begin my career at CIA in 1986. I too would like to specifically thank UWF for the opportunity today. Gretchen von Valkenburg from UWF's alumni, I won't say it right, Development Alumni Relations, I do believe was a real treasure yesterday. I got to go back out to the university and do a tour of the university, spent a lot of time on the campus. And part of that was with the School of Science and Engineering, who I want to also thank all the guys over there who are enjoying their lunch. And specifically the Department of Computer Science, where I got to spend some time yesterday talking to them about new initiatives, the IT performance grant that they've received, what they're going to do with cyber, and so forth. So it's very exciting. Thank you very much. And I also owe a big thanks to the Pensacola Area Chamber of Commerce, or the Greater Pensacola Area Chamber of Commerce, for their support for me being here and for their full support of this event for all of you. I know that the Iten Wired Summit has been here for 10 years. This is my first time. I look forward to being here in the future. And as was noted last evening at the hospitality event, look forward to being with you in 10 more years when it is Iten Wired 23. So thank you. I won't say that it's a bit of the prodigal daughter returned home, because I still do live in the Washington, D.C. area. But I look forward to reestablishing connections with the Pensacola area and helping you all as you grow the IT business here and as you grow your companies here in the D.C. area. So with all those things out of the way, let's actually get to the conversation. One more thing that you see here is a different logo. It's not Tummler Singer Associates. I have that company, and it mostly does private clients and board work. I also recently joined a group called Deepwater Point as a partner at Deepwater Point. We are a larger business consulting house of about 110 consultants, so hence their logo here. But what I'm going to talk to you today about is where I believe CIOs feel a lot of pressure for the future, and where I actually believe CIOs can use technology and the IT departments can use technology to their advantage to make their organizations safer, whether that is a government organization or an industry organization or even academia. I will probably make the mistake of slipping into a little bit of federal government acronyms. You guys heard a lot of those this morning. But let me start by telling you from a U.S. intelligence community perspective, when I use the word IT, I use it as a generally overarching and fully encompassing term. It covers things that you might think of as computer science. It covers things that you might think of as IT ops. It covers things that you might think of as cyber ops, cyber defense ops. Let me be clear on that, not cyber offense, but cyber defense. It covers information management, records management, and so forth. So don't be offended if I don't call out a specific discipline. I will just use the broad term of IT as we go through this. So let's talk a little bit about the environment that we all face today, but in particular, the environment that your government clients are facing right now. We all know now with absolute certainty, if we didn't before, that the U.S. economy is not isolated. Now, you can look at obvious events in 2008 and so forth with the real estate crash and with the financial challenges and the demise of AIG and things like that as big events that told us that we were connected to the European economy. But those events have continued, and now we are 5 years later, almost 6 years later, and more we recognize that when something happens 12 hours out from us, the impact will be felt very real and very dramatically in the United States. Sometimes only in the stock market, sometimes in more dramatic ways. If any of you rely on federal budgets, and I would dare to say if any of you rely on state budgets, you know that the budget situation for federal funds is at best tumultuous. We're all waiting for Congress to get back and pay attention to the federal budgets for 2014. We don't expect that it will be a really awesome year. We do believe that federal organizations will have more benefit this time of not just doing 10% cuts across the board, line by line, but making some smarter decisions. The end result, however, will be less money. And maybe in 15 or 16 it won't look so bad, don't know. Maybe in 17 or 18 it won't look so bad, don't know. But right now there's been a significant amount of federal work to reduce the budgets that it has across all federal sectors. That's put a lot of pressure on the CIOs. Global hotspots keep erupting. Syria appears to be slightly tamped down right now. You all could watch that as well as I could to see how close we were to doing something for Syria. We're still watching Egypt. We want Egypt to really embrace democracy. We believe it's a better form of government for them, but it's not going to come without additional costs. And who knows where the next hotspot will be? Who knows when the next minor 9/11 event might happen, or something major might happen. And so it is unpredictable at best when we look at nation-state stability across the world. Our ability to create new data is phenomenal on the one hand, staggering on the same hand, and scary as all get out on the other hand. You guys probably know these numbers as well as I do, but we still are sending something like 250 billion emails around the world every single day. Now that's email. They told us a long time ago that email would be the least attractive form of communication for us. That's not the case. For businesses, it's still the primary form of communication. But our ability to create this new data is simply staggering, and how we figure out how to manage that is a challenge that we will all face. And then cyber events. Pick up any paper, or that's an old term, go online to any favorite electronic news source, and you will see a story every single day about a major cyber event that occurred. And generally, they are disruptive. It is just the degree of disruption that we worry about. And every industry is vulnerable to the cyber events. So what I think we have here is this confluence that is really like a volcano. There is the potential to erupt at any given time. Volcanoes don't erupt all the time, however, and so I'm not trying to be a doomsday and say, oh, wow, everybody get ready and look out. We just need to be prepared. We need to watch for the indicators and in the things that are happening around us so that we are prepared in advance should the environment begin to erupt and lava begin to flow. As a CIO, not only do you have everything on that previous page to deal with, but you also have these technologies that are out there that everyone is talking about. The big four is what I'll call them. You have for your company an increasing desire by your leadership to make sure that they use IT to drive competitive advantage. IT is not the commodity in the back office anymore, maybe for some companies, but I would encourage them to realize that IT is their savior and can be their difference between a go-to-market strategy first and a go-to-market strategy last. So they really need to use that. Every CIO that I know doesn't have as much money today as they used to yesterday. For the rare CIO that has an increased budget, they're probably doing something right in convincing their leadership that the feature of IT creates this benefit for the business, which will drive that competitive advantage. But most CIOs are still looking for ways to drive efficiencies and costs, drive efficiencies up and costs out of the business. And not just in the commodity platforms, but you see that as organizations go to cloud, and you see that as organizations try to adopt mobile strategies that are smart and safe, but are also less expensive for the company itself. Hyperproductivity. If we had more time, I would spend a lot of talk about how IT can enable hyperproductivity. The world not only is smaller, but it is moving at such a fast and rapid rate that the US employee in any industry or any sector is going to have to learn how to be hyper-productive in order to keep up. For our businesses and our economy to be sustained, we cannot have little jumps in labor productivity that look like 1% over a year. We're going to have to take advantage of technology and the tools and the analytics and everything there to allow our employees to be super productive and hit that hyper-productivity scale. And then finally, companies are asking every CIO to guarantee their digital security and safety. I didn't say protect, help. I said guarantee, because that's what your CEO is looking for, a guarantee that they won't be the next company on the front page of the paper who just got hacked or whose stuff just got stolen, whose IP is no longer valuable because someone else has it and has used it. It's hard to guarantee that, but CEOs still want that kind of a guarantee. Later on today, we'll talk a little bit about if that's a realistic expectation from your CEO or not. So let's walk through each of these 4 convergence of technologies that everyone's chatting about. And specifically, you know cloud, you know mobility, you know cyber, you know big data. I'm going to focus on the impact to your security footprint, to your cyber defense from each of those technologies. To a friendly audience, I'm pretty sure I can assume that you believe cloud computing is no longer a fad, that it is here to stay. If you didn't pay attention, though, the term was coined just 6 years ago. The first use of the term cloud computing was in 2007. And now here we are just 6 years later. And actually, I even think if I asked my dad, who is nearly 80, will leave this earth never having sent an email or never having been on the internet, if I said to him the word cloud computing, he would have some notion of what that is. It's phenomenal, the penetration of a term like cloud computing. And certainly your kids, if you have any kids, they actually assume that anything they want is available to them at any time from any location and in the last version that they had, right? Not stored on their laptop, which they left at home, but stored somewhere where they can get it constantly. The features that I listed here about cloud, you know all those features, but those are the things that made it so such a penetrating technology base for us in such a quick and short period of time. And your company often chooses different reasons to go to the cloud. I'm not going to judge what those reasons are. There are a lot of benefits that go with each of the features of cloud, whether you're looking to save money on your energy costs and you want to go to a provider that can push your PUE down to 1.3 at a minimum, or even lower than that, you'll pull the cloud. If you have money in different pots and you have a lot of CapEx, you might buy your own cloud and do it yourself. If you don't have CapEx but you have OpEx, you might go purchase services from someone, et cetera. General Keith Alexander, the director of the NSA, was probably one of the earliest ones who came out really strongly and publicly to say that he believed cloud was a more secure environment, a more secure capability. In the US intelligence community, we actually had a group of counterintelligence individuals and a group of CISOs do their own review of that and came to the same conclusion. And the reason that we believe cloud computing is more secure is the conformity and the standardization across the platforms. You can lay down a patch really fast when you don't have to re-engineer it for every unique instance of the capability. You can respond to Cyber Command, Fragos, and Stigs really fast, again, if you don't have to re-engineer it for every unique operating environment or compute and processing environment that's out there. That's one of the biggest benefits for it. I'm not saying cloud is risk-free. It's just that it is easier than the heterogeneous, complex compute architectures and environments you've had in the past. Now, mobility, sort of on the other side. We all love our devices. I spent 27 years in the top secret community. For the last 6 months, nearly 6 months since April, I have actually been able to work from my iPhone and my iPad in the Starbucks, and it's awesome because I never had that. I would drive up to work, shut my phone off, my $400 phone, shut it off, leave it in my car, go into my building, no idea what was happening, and when I left my building, I would go back and turn my phone on, and then I'd rejoin the real world. So now it's fun to actually be part of the real world on nearly a 24/7 basis. Maybe not so fun when your kids have instantaneous access to you. It's fun when you have it to them, but not necessarily when they have it to you. But mobility is certainly the way that our workforce wants to operate today, and it is the way that every innovative and leading edge company will find a way for them to operate today. Doesn't mean that they shouldn't come together collaboratively face-to-face to build relationships and teams, but to give them the flexibility that they desire for themselves and for their families and for their activities or whatever else consumes their time is a necessity for the best companies that will be out there. However, it has a boatload of security risks attached to it. And as a CIO, they are trying to figure out, how do I implement the right mobile device management the realistic mobile device management, whether it is the phone that I bought for that employee or the phone that they bought for themselves. Therefore, we believe that adds to the security risk features. Also, it wasn't that long ago when you rarely heard of an iOS attack or a threat. Rarely heard of a Droid operating system challenge or issue. That's changed. And that's changed just in the past 3 or 4 years. All of our mobile devices, I just picked those 2 operating systems. I don't mean to leave Windows out of the conversation or anybody else, but I picked those 2. All of those operating systems are big attack surfaces now for any one of the actors that you're looking at. Whether it is a sophisticated state-based actor or nation-based actor, or whether it is the teenage hacker or the middle school hacker just trying to play around, it is a significant attack vector. And so you have to focus on how you're going to use mobility smartly, but also protect it even more smartly. Let's go to the third one that all CIOs are faced with, which is big data. I don't expect you to be able to read this chart. You can find it on the internet. And I even commented and sourced it that this is old data now because it's from 2011 and 2012 with the data there. But I already told you that we're still sending over 250 billion emails a day. I believe the numbers, like for your viewing pleasure, you can see 898,000 hours of cat video. That data was from 2012, too. We talked about this when I was still in government, and we said, what would the world need with 898,000 hours of cat video? So we decided that you should just pump that into the incarceration system and have that be the only thing that they get to watch. Might change it from you did something bad to you actually went crazy. I'm not so sure. But the point is, whether it's video, whether it is images, whether it is text, whether it's transactional data about what you bought, when you bought it, and what credit card you bought it with, whether it is your shopping preferences, any other kind of marketing data, it's all out there, and it's really big data. Most of us think about how we use that from a corporate perspective in terms of increasing our revenue for the company or increasing the profitability and the margins for the company. But I will encourage you that you need to also think about how you can use big data in an IT sense to better secure and better defend your corporate environment. There is a lot of it there. It brings security risk, because if you put your stuff out there, your company puts stuff out there, that will be a challenge, but it brings security opportunity also. And then the last area that CIOs spend a lot of time thinking about is just general cybersecurity, and I mean cybersecurity as a defensive mechanism for the company. I think most people believe that or think about that, but I always want to be careful that they don't assume that I mean the attack side. I mean the defense side. And for every good CIO, they recognize that it is a stacked layer of activities, processes, procedures, tools, technologies, and humans that they have to bring together in order to have a better cybersecurity posture. You know, it starts at the outside of your building with your gates and your guards and your guns and your locks and your badges and so forth, and moves all the way through your infrastructure in traditional things like your firewalls and your routers, your IPS, your IDS. But it also needs to go out to your vendors, to your network providers, to make sure that your telcos are giving you the right security and so forth. Along the way, don't forget about the insider. I know we're probably all reminded of that a lot right now because of Snowden. He was an insider threat. But sometimes that insider threat is innocently ignorant. Actually, most of the time it is. Hygiene is still the #1 reason, bad hygiene is still the #1 reason that APTs can occur or that any hacker of any sophistication can get into your network or your phone or anything else. Your people just didn't do what you asked them to do, or your IT team thought that if they covered 70% of the devices that would be sufficient. Well, there was someone looking for the 30% that weren't covered. So you do have to pay attention to the innocently ignorant employees that you have, whether they're in IT or whether they're just users of IT from a cybersecurity perspective. So so we've covered sort of the 4 things that are on every CIO's mind. I'm sure that the 4 things that you're trying to do for all of your clients, or the things that you're doing for your own companies. But the topic of this was, is there an intersection? You know, is there something that I can do as a CIO? Is there a way, or just as a company, is there a way that I can take those 4 really cool technologies and other technologies and use them to actually make my company safer? You know, can I use those things to my advantage within IT to ensure that my company is less vulnerable than another company? The answer is absolutely yes. So let's talk through a few of those. I didn't click. There we go. This is actually from a product that's from 2011. I believe we published it for AFCIA, for the AFCIA International Cyber Committee, and something you can search online if you want to read the whole paper. But the real bottom line of the paper when it comes to cloud computing is that it is a huge opportunity for you to get sensor data that heretofore you probably didn't have access to or pay attention to. So you get it from the nature of cloud, because each mobile device that is accessing, or each device that is accessing the cloud, whether you're the cloud provider or you're buying the cloud from some cloud provider, is sending in sensor data about that mobile device. Where is it? Does it have the right patching? Do I need to put better NAC on it or something like that? All of that is there, and it is coming in. You just need to make sure that you can collect it and take advantage of it. Similar thing happens on your telecom and your network layer. Whether it's a terrestrial network, or it's a satellite network, or a Wi-Fi network, a lot of data is coming through there that you can collect and gather in order to improve your security posture. And while you could see it without cloud, the benefit of cloud is that now you have a flexible architecture into which you can throw all of that data so that you can do something with it as an IT, IA, or IM professional. You have all the traditional sensors in the middle that I show there that happen in your compute architecture. You know, what's happening with my firewalls, what's going on with my routers, how are my virtualized servers performing, and all of that stuff. What's the latest version of Oracle that I've got there? Is it fully patched? Did I upload the latest Adobe product? Because they still don't patch. They just give you a new product or a new release of the product and so forth. All of that data should be mined for your cybersecurity. What we saw in cloud, so this paper was actually a product where we interviewed notable experts across the big data space, the cloud space, and so forth, from industry, government, and academia. And what we discovered was that the creation of cloud and the use of all this sensor data actually gave us security insights that heretofore we could not have. Before cloud computing, and before this world, we could not gain these insights. So no matter how good you thought your cybersecurity ops center was, or your NOC was, or your SOC was before, they would not have been able to see all of this data except for in the past few years. So let's add to that machine-generated big data. When I talked about big data previously, I mostly talked about big data in things that we create, like emails and videos and images and so forth, purposefully to save the discussion of machine-generated big data for here. Most of you are technical. You'll know what machine-generated big data looks like. If you can actually see the text here, that's real machine-generated big data. No human touched that to create it. It was done automatically by the devices across the environment. It's available for exploitation in order to have better defense. Machine-generated big data will surpass what we consider to be people-created big data 10 to 20 to 30 to 50-fold are the predictions. So if you thought it would be hard to manage all of the Twitter traffic coming around the globe that you might want to exploit for your own marketing purposes, just think about all of that machine-generated big data that is nearly 50 times more or greater that you could actually use. So how in the world are you going to do that? The bubble here represents some things that you might not think of, or that your CEO might not think of as machine-generated big data. It's what's coming off your SCADA systems, your industrial control systems. It's what's coming at you from database security pings. It's what your applications are sending for metrics and measures of their performance. It's the data sources that they're accessing them from an application, and that data sources availability or lack of availability. It's vulnerability data, it's wireless security data, it's host configuration data, it's the IDS, it's the IPS, it's all of those things that are available to you as machine-generated big data. The volume alone is going to suggest a flexible architecture, i.e. cloud. The variety, it might all be readable because it does come in some form where you can make sense of it with algorithms and so forth. But the variety of it will be understanding that in this kind of machine-generated data, I should be looking for these particular sequences. And in another kind of machine-generated data, it's a different sequence. So how do you pull all these together? You can use cloud as a platform as well as a sensor point. You can use all these big data insights predominantly in your IT environment from machine-generated big data and lay on top of it analytics. Analytics that I, based on my background, would have thought of to support an intelligence analyst that's writing for the president. Those same analytics, you need to turn on your IT department and give it to them. Spend time beefing up the analytic capabilities that they have so that they can see the challenges, the red, the green, and the yellow, in the data that's coming at them from these huge flows of machine-generated big data. And when you put that cloud data with that machine-generated data and the analytics, you will actually be able to give your organization the ability to make a better business risk decision. And it's also supportive of all the other IT operations things that we have to do as professionals in order to keep our environments running. So I don't want it to be that if you just tackle this machine-generated big data, you're going to have a better security footprint. You will. But it should also be that you'll have better knowledge of what your users are using and when they're using it. You'll have better knowledge of the performance of application A versus application B. You'll have better knowledge of your network performance. You'll have better understanding if that telecom provider, where you think that you're fully redundant and fully dual routed, if you are or you aren't. You'll be able to charge back to that vendor for the unusable services that they gave you and so forth. You'll have a lot of insights that go well beyond the cybersecurity footprint of the cybersecurity aspect that I'm discussing here. I sometimes miss that. Now, you got all this big data. Let's go back to cybersecurity. You have all of this big data. How do you know how to use it? I would tell you that it's not auto magic. There is real hardcore work that will have to be done by your IT team. This chart, the boxes that you see on the right are from the Mandiant report or from the Mandiant's process of how to identify that I've been targeted or that I have been attacked and so forth. But the biggest thing you'll have to work through is what is normal behavior in your organization user by user. That you will need tools to do, but that is not simple. So I don't want to leave the impression of go get Splunk, plop it in your IT department, and your life will be awesome. It'll all work just great. You know, Splunk's going to give you a whole bunch of data, and they're an awesome company and have a whole bunch of tools, very innovative. But Splunk doesn't know what looks normal to your users and to your organization or to your clients. And so you have to walk through those normal behaviors in order to create a heuristic view to know when anomalous behavior is occurring. And over time, you have to get smart enough as an organization to know when someone is spoofing normal behavior, when something is trying really hard to look like a normal user in your environment, but you need to be smart enough to know that that one little bit out of place or that one little misspelling of something or that one little different kind of URL or tiny URL is what makes them abnormal, and how you can find that in a big, big, big pool of data. You know, knowing your data and your users so well that you can create repeatable analytics that will identify automatically for your workforce when you have a challenge and when you have an issue. It, again, is not easy. It will take time, which means it's going to take money. But it's a way that you'll be able to stay ahead of all the threats that will be coming at you. If you have users, so let's pick any example or event that you've seen in the press over the first few years. I won't use one in particular. But if you have a user who focuses on Russia as their primary emphasis in intelligence, and all of a sudden they're accessing data on China or Venezuela, that is an abnormal behavior pattern. And that should be immediately targeted. Not that it's for action necessarily, other than maybe you send the counterintelligence team to go ask a few questions. Or if you have a user whose primary job is to focus on Target as a customer, and all of a sudden you see them also focusing on Walmart, yet you didn't change their customer account, that should send up some red flags too. So there are lots of ways that you can use this data, but it does require significant investment to understand what is normal behavior for my organization. So how do you get some more results? If you've been in some of the breakout sessions today, this is, could be slightly redundant, for which I apologize. The charts up there, some of them come from the Verizon Data Security Breach Report that comes out annually. If you're not familiar with that Verizon report, go get it. It's online. It's a great source, and you can watch the trends in cybersecurity over the years. But one of the things that has becoming more prominent through that breach report is that no industry is safe. This chart shows you, if I can read it correctly, that 1/3 of the espionage attacks were targeted at manufacturing. 1/4 was targeted at professional services, and 15% was targeted at the transportation industry. So it's not just the defense contractors. It's not just the government agencies. It's everyone that you support and everyone that you work for. When it comes to a cyber event, while your CEO wants you to guarantee him or her cybersecurity and cyber safety, you have to find a way to tell them we're not, and if it happens, it's a when it happens. Because it will happen if it hasn't already. The worst thing is that you're already had, you don't know it. So you have to figure out if there's something in there and you don't even know that they're running around just waiting. An easy way is just to watch your pings out, right? Put a honeypot up and watch your pings out and find those folks. Another way is just when you find them, isolate them and then stare over their shoulder and see what they're up to. The decisions that you make are all about your corporate risk posture. It's not a do this or do nothing. There's a spectrum. There's a range that companies will go through, and every company will be different. There's a tolerance level that they will have. And that tolerance level that creates their corporate posture is based on their intellectual property, their requirements from a contracts perspective, their sophistication and their teams, or in the people that they outsource to, and so forth. We used to do a lot of work with the financial services industry, from the intelligence community to the financial services folks. And when stealing of credit cards and stuff became really big business, we would be like, how do you guys deal with that? Because stealing one secret could be a life for us on the intelligence community. And I was floored when they said, oh, we just buy insurance. So for the intelligence community, we don't just buy insurance, but for your clients and your companies, maybe you do just buy insurance. And that's a part of creating your corporate risk posture and figuring out what that insurance is. And if you haven't engaged with someone that requires you to have cybersecurity insurance, it's coming. Even me, as a tiny little company hanging out my shingle, one of the big software vendors came to me with their standard contract and said, you have to have cybersecurity insurance. And I said, it's a couple of laptops. I'm not going to go buy that. But if you have size of any kind, they'll be asking you to go get that cybersecurity insurance. Obviously, to us, the cyber professionals we have and the IT professionals that we have need the right training in order to be able to keep up with that. Perhaps, and that's probably obvious to your CEO. Perhaps less obvious is that the entire organization needs training. The entire organization will be part of that innocently ignorant behavior. The entire organization will be the one who inadvertently opens up a back door or sticks a nasty thumb drive into a machine and sends a virus running around your network and around your corporation. So it has to be on everybody in that company. Everybody has to take training. It has to be ongoing. For us in our spaces, it's an annual thing. If you want to keep your top secret account, you've got to go through your training every single year, and that training just gets a little bit harder and a little bit more encompassing based on things that have happened in the world about removable media and so forth. But it is something that happens across the board for your organization, not just in your IT team. not just with you all as professionals. October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. I know you guys all know that. It's CCM, right? Because you're going to have a big event in Florida, in Pensacola, about CCM. I couldn't actually find a logo. State of North Carolina is the one I found. Stop, Think, Connect is this year's theme. What they're trying to get to is something simple, almost like stop, drop, and roll. We all know what that means, right? We've learned that since we were kids, that if you get caught on fire, you know, stop, drop, and roll, or whatever. We're trying to come up with something at the national level that is as simple as that. What we have right now is Stop, Think, Connect. And that applies to people of every single age. Much of the earlier campaigns were focused at kids and online predators. But now there's a big focus on our older population and making sure that they understand phishing behaviors and so forth and don't just click on links and whatnot. But, and finally, I would tell you in this space, there's always help, right? There's an example here from the MS ISAC, I think. Every industry has an ISAC, an information sharing committee at the national level. We can argue about whether they do a good job or not, but they do exist and it's a resource for you. As well as resources in academia, resources in industry, and so forth that can help you. So don't despair. We'll all get through this. So I want to close with a Dilbert. You know that you've actually made it when you have a Dilbert, so I'll leave this to you guys. You've all been there, right? You've been right in the middle of doing something really important, and all of a sudden, your IT department wanted you to update your McAfee footprints or something like that. Hopefully, you didn't actually do this. Say, well, I won't work and I won't update. I'll just go home or go to the beach or something. But it's a simple reminder of what we put our environment and our employees through, where they have to make choices constantly about what to do. And they need to know immediately that the choice is let this virus update go through or let this software upgrade go through as long as they believe it's from you and not from someone that it shouldn't be in order to keep their environment safe.